Our next speaker, if I pronounce his name right, I hope so, is Dirk Knemeyer, who is founder of Involution Studio Software Design, which serves Oracle and Apple. Welcome, Dirk, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I've never had a talk right before dinner, so this will be interesting. I've decided that I'm not going to do a lightning talk in terms of speeding up. I'm going to do a slow lightning talk and I've chosen instead to edit a little more capriciously than I might like. So, Humanity Plus is the name of this conference. It's a term identified with the Transhumanism movement. These are things I wasn't particularly familiar with. I did a lot of research about, and I was a little bit concerned. And so I'm coming into this community as an outsider. I'm going to challenge a little bit. And I'm meaning to provoke and meaning hopefully to push forward. So please treat me nicely. One of the things from Humanity Plus that really stood out to me is that the transhumanism movement focuses on that plus. So much of the conversation, so much of the literature is around things of living forever, increasing life, so your brain goes faster, these hard science things, very quant things, that is just more, faster, very much so. And there's not as much on what I personally care about, my interest, which is humanity, the qual. And here's a picture that I love of my oldest son, and I know him very well, and this is what his face looks like when he's feeling unbridled joy. And to me, having people have more unbridled joy is a lot more important than living long lives that continue to be relatively boring, relatively passé. For any of us who, I'm sure like myself, many of you were on the subway this weekend. I've been on the New York subway many times. I can't get a smile out of anybody's face. So the humanity part of the equation is horrendously broken. And the fact that so much energy and effort is going towards having people live forever, lives that could be terribly meaningless and unfortunate, I think is unbalanced. So I don't claim any degree of enlightened balance. Notice for my interest, it's just the humanity. Frankly, I don't give a crap about the technology. If you guys solve so that I can live forever, rock on. I'll totally be part of taking advantage of that, but it doesn't interest me terribly. So I have my own, in my business we talk about three-legged stool. Everything needs to be taken care of in a similar balance or else it's all going to fall over. I acknowledge my one-leggedness in this situation as well. So I like, as a speaker, and I like to hear from other speakers that have context of where they're coming from, so I like to share my life goal, and it's a very modest goal. So my life goal is to measurably increase the happiness and well-being of the human species. I set this goal when I was 20 years old as an undergraduate. My plan was to go and get a PhD in philosophy and solve the big, complicated problems of the world. And great, everybody's life is going to be better. And as I finished my undergraduate degree, as I got my master's degree in popular culture, which is social sciences, it's a synthesis of anthropology, psychology, and sociology, I could tell that the academy was not the place for me to do that. It moved too slow. The bureaucracy I thought was small-minded and pedantic. So I moved off into the business world. I decided to make change by conforming to a capitalist paradigm that I, in fact, loathed. I'm an anti-capitalist, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. So you can put those pieces together in any way you'd like to. Helping business thus became my tool for helping the world. And one of the tools, I'm going to introduce you to two things I'm doing today. One of them is what I call the Applied Empathy Framework. So I have a background in branding. Most recently, I own this software design company. We design software apps for, again, Apple, Microsoft, Oracle, a lot of big companies. My interest here is to take the production of products, services, and brands and flip them to be towards human needs and desires. So we did some research and found correlations between the most successful brands, the companies with the highest market cap, and how deeply they engaged human needs and desires, how deeply they engaged the most important, most fundamental, most moving parts of being human. So this is all of it in total, and it's a little hard to see. I'm going to go through it sort of piece by piece. So the Applied Empathy Framework is, first of all, based on designing for 5 levels of human needs and desires, and this is loosely based on Maslow, his hierarchy of needs, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And the idea is it's easy for a company to get people to participate with it, It is harder and more rewarding if people are engaged. It is, again, harder and more rewarding if it adds productivity to their life in some broad way. And then happiness, and then finally as the highest good, as the most powerful thing a company can accomplish in terms of how it's connecting with people, is well-being. And the difference between happiness and well-being: happiness is someone's perceived good, what they think they want, whether it's good for them or not, whereas well-being is a more objective sense of something making people well. And we broke people down from a framework perspective into 3 primary categories, and this is simplified for business so that business people can use this on an everyday basis. The whole framework is more complex and it involves more things, but the idea is we need to, every company, every product, service, and brand should try and get people analytically, emotionally, and physically. So analytically, it starts on the outside, and the easiest ways to do so are through contest, through getting attention, through amusement. And if you first accomplish those, then you can up-level to creating challenge, creating determination with the person, as well as interest, and then moves up again to making progress, achieving understanding, further synthesizes into gaining knowledge, and then finally goes into the well-being center, which those aren't down any one of the paths. They're kind of all with all of them, but I've chosen to show meaning and satiation here as 2 examples. Emotionally, I won't go through every single circle, but again, we've done it for analytical, emotional, and physical, and going from the things that are easiest all the way to well-being, the things that will make people well, that will make their lives better, and will make them more brand passionate, will make them use your products and services more and spend more money with you. So the whole idea here is solving for business, essentially designing for business from the context of the starting point of saying, how can we design for ecstasy? We want our brand, whatever your company is, we want to achieve ecstasy in the context of the people who are in our brand experience. How do we do that? And when you start to design problem solve from the standpoint of human needs and desires, particularly at the deepest level, the power is incredible. So the other thing I'm doing more recently is getting into really deeply understanding people. This is to some degree inspired by the quantified self, for those of you who are familiar with that. I'm a little bit perturbed that the quantified self is so focused, again, on the quant and not the qual. So basically, I've taken a break from my software business to some degree to get a new consulting business started around how do we deeply understand people, how do we deeply understand team dynamics, and how do we, again, in a business context, how do we make businesses much more successful by virtue of up-leveling the understanding of the human experience. So I don't have any graphics here yet because this is all sort of in process. But to deeply understand a person from the standpoint of self-identity as well as the understanding of others, you need to really understand preferences. And this Myers-Briggs is a typical preference tool. Others would be like the HBDI if you're familiar with that. But so that you understand what people really inherently, and I'll use scare quotes, are most comfortable with. Then you also need to part of the picture skills, and it really should be like skills and skills and attributes. So everything from like what could be measured by an IQ or EIQ test, which are clumsy in different ways but still have some role, to things like the Hogan assessment, which business people are probably familiar with, and beyond. So really understanding skills, and then also getting to the layer of values, needs, and desires. If you can begin to quantify all of those things, if you can begin to understand people and create a framework around that for self-understanding, and then turn that into understanding of the self in the context of the other. This is also based a little bit on Rogerian approaches to psychology, the notion that the closer aligned you as a self are with your ideal self, the happier and more productive and better you'll be able to live. So trying to triangulate on those things, and again, put it in the business context. Help people, make people's lives really be up-leveled, but help businesses make more money. And that gets to the optimal team part of it. So if you're solving for teams, you need to have people who you understand well from a human engineering perspective. And then you need to work through the process issues, the relationships issues, which is just the dynamic from people to people, as well as alignment issues. So alignment with organizational goals, alignment with team objectives, alignment with each other even, among others. This is a little bit of an oversimplification. I've gotten my sign. So I think I've covered enough. Please just, I would ask everyone here to remember the H in H+, because it matters every bit as much as the hard science stuff. And thank you very much.